G'day guys, welcome to another video. Now this one, to say I love it, I know I say that I love several different videos, but this one turned out awesome. Remember back, if you've been around a while, remember back I did a page a couple of weeks ago, and I sort of did a bit of I sort of discovered something that I could do with the Distress Oxides that was pretty cool. Well, I decided that I was going to do it on this entire layout. So all I've done there is added the FINNABAIR Art Basics Clear Gesso to some flat white cardstock. Okay. Now I am adding, and I knew I was going to add a fair bit of water to this. Yes, it's a rainbow layout, but I'm using a different tone of rainbow. So normally people use rainbow and they use all the really bright ones. I thought I'd sort of step it back because I wanted to use Lumberjack Plaid, because this color, it is so good. I love it. And so by dropping it sort of back a little bit, and instead of stepping it up into the really bright colors, I just went to more the, how would you explain it? In my mind, I see this range of colors: Lumberjack Plaid, Spiced Marmalade, Wild Honey, Lucky Clover, Uncharted Marina, and Dusty Concord. I sort of see those colors. It's still a rainbow, but it's not big, bright, and bold. It's kind of more muted. It's more of a, I call it a richness, like it's a richer sort of rainbow. Now this was me just initially spreading out the color and getting the entire 12 by 12 to have basically a rainbow wash. That's what I was kind of running with. I am sopping up a little bit there, and that's okay, because what I actually figured out was with the Distress Oxides, as we know, you can build them up. You can wet them, you can add extra, you can build it up, you can make it darker, the Distress Oxides, for those that haven't used them before, what they are, they're a combination of a dye ink and a pigment ink, and it's kind of a hybrid. So you get the ability to water it, like it's water reactive, so you're able to sort of use it as a paint, so to speak. You can do that, but you can also just use it as a solid color. You can stamp with it and you get a really clear image. It's not like VersaFine clear, but it's pretty clear. And what I decided to do with this lot was, the other week I did this thing where I was drying the ink as I was dabbing it on, and it kind of made a really cool pattern because I was drying it, and then when I was putting some more wetness to it, it kind of made these little tiny puddles, I suppose you'd call them, and it turned out so cool. So initially all I did was got the color down, spread it across so the entire sheet was rainbow. So this did all just start from a white sheet, white background. And then this is where you can see, so I bring in my heat tool. Now, if you don't have a heat tool, you can let this dry in between coats. And if you leave, the other thing is, if you leave your Distress Oxide, see, I'm working on that plastic mat next to me. I just continually reuse that unless I'm using a piece of plastic, like that are packaging basically. So see how I'm just sort of dotting this on, and by using the heat tool, I'm able to dry it while it stays in its puddle, so it doesn't disperse out into the rest of it. So you have to make sure that your first layer is dry, so that way the little puddles that you put on there will stay where you've put them. So I'm being quite specific where I'm actually dotting it on there, and you can see it's creating a kind of it's kind of like leopard print. You know when you see leopard print um and it's got the circles. They're not circles. They're not oblongs. They're just shapes, and it's kind of tone on tone. That's what this is, and that's what this technique is. It looks so cool. I'm not adding extra colors to it. This is purely the inks going to work. Now, the one thing I've noticed with the Lumberjack Plaid is, and Tim Holtz mentioned this in his release of the color, it doesn't wick out, and he said wick out. I guess that's just a creative term, but or a specific, terminology. What I've noticed is Lumberjack Plaid keeps its depth of color. It doesn't dilute to a shade of pink. It stays that color, and I love that. I am so glad that this color has come out in the range, because it really does fill a void. Now, I don't get any kickbacks or anything for saying what products I love more than others or anything like that. But to say that this works, and works really, really well, all I'm using is a watercolor brush, by the way. It's just a Montmartre watercolor paintbrush. It's one of the big, thick, it holds a lot of water. And basically, I'm sopping up all that color, and I'm just using my light misting spray to just add a tiny bit of water to it. So it's not as diluted as what the background was. The background really diluted out, and you can start to see now where it really starts to hold its own. And I've brought back the heat tool, just to start drying those patterns. Now, can you see in the orange, and which is spiced marmalade and wild honey, they seem to lighten up when they've oxidized. Whereas notice the very top with Lumberjack Plaid, it's not doing that. The purple Dusty Concord, it does that too, but what it does is Dusty Concord actually has like a two-tone effect. When you just put it down straight, it's very much, it's a purple. That's what it is. But when you add water to it, it kind of brings out the purple hues, the purple going towards the blue, and you kind of get that look. So that worked really nicely with the Uncharted Marina. That just, now look at that page. There is no stencils. There is no difficult techniques used. It is super uber simple, and I love it. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Now, what I'm doing here is I've actually used a cut to you cut file. I will link it below. This cut file, this is one cut file, but you get both sides. So it's kind of like a mirror image. Now, Cut to You is an Australian company owned by Gwen, and I haven't used one of her cut files for a while, so I jumped on and thought I'll find one, and I love it. I love this cut file. Then what I decided to do, initially I was going to leave it white against the rainbow, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make it gold, but not my usual gold. Usually I go for the really bright yellow gold. What I ended up doing, you saw me pull out my tray of mica powders. Now, in this little pot, I had some gum arabic already made up in the pot. Now, if you use distilled water, it doesn't grow any weird funky things or anything like that. And I bought these little tiny pots. They came in a tray, and I can't tell you how much they were, but if you're interested to find out where they are, I'll backtrack through my receipts, because yes, I'm that weirdo that keeps all my receipts so I know where things come from. And all I did, you saw me add in some mica powder into the gum arabic, which gum arabic is a sticky agent. It's actually food safe. And I started doing this and then realized, oh, stop. It looks terrible. Don't do it. Stop, stop, stop. I'm still going. I'm telling myself to stop. But all I had to do to get rid of that black was just wet it. Just wet it and it run back off again. So the gum arabic is food safe, and it's not that I eat it, but it's something that it's a sticky. It turns into a glue essentially. So whatever you put in it, once you paint it down, it stays stuck. So it's great for your mica pastes. You can make up mica powders, make a paste like I just used there, or that's how I use it personally, and it works a treat. So that gold does not come off. It doesn't brush off. It doesn't fall off. You get the high payout of the shimmer of the mica powder. I love it. So I love me some shimmer. It's fantastic. Now this is how I stick things down and get my borders even when I rip it. See, I stuff up too. Now I've got that nice white border around my rainbow. Now the rainbow is not in an arch or anything like that. And I'm scrapbooking a larger photo. This is of my daughter when on her graduation from high school. And I zoomed in on the photo and made it black and white. And that lends itself to be used in so many other ways. So it did have a white border on it, but I cut it quite fine and I wanted a little bit more distinction. So I mounted it on some leftover white cardstock. Then this is tracing paper. So I've just gone around the outside edge and I'm using my Tim Holtz shears they're 9 odd inches long. Now look at this. I've got my muslin out again, people. I'm learning how to use this stuff. And what I did is I thinned it out to where it was just one sheet. And instead of making it all super grungy, what I actually did was I cut the border, but then I just peeled some threads. So I've got this really fine, it's almost like a grid stripe, if that makes sense. So see how it's just like a fringing almost? So when it's on top of the layout, you're not drawn to it as such, but you sort of go, oh, there's something there, but it's not taking away from the rainbow. It's not taking away from the cut file. It just adds a little extra something. Now on this cut file, I realized it was probably a bit too long and I would have preferred it to just be a little bit shorter. So I just trimmed off the 2 end leaves and then proceeded to glue it down. Yes, I used my art glitter glue because, as you know, Distress Oxides, they oxidize when you add water to them, and wet glue is the better adhesive in this scenario. So there we go. I just popped that down and then my photo on top of that. Now I used adhesive tape to get the muslin connected, but then I used wet glue to get it on there. So now all I'm doing is I actually pulled out, I was hunting a little bit here, so don't despair. Now, while I'm doing this, I am just going to quickly mention, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe, like a video, leave me a comment, all of those sort of things. Just so my page, I do scrap a little bit differently to other people. I like to create my own embellishments, create my own look on a page. So if you think that's something that maybe your friends might like, or you know a scrapbooker that maybe they would enjoy that, please share my video around. And yeah, so I hate doing that. I hate self-promotion. I can't do it very well. It's not the Aussie way, you know. The Aussie way, we don't brag and say how amazing we are. We don't do that. It's just, it comes very awkward to me. So I feel really awkward saying it all. So the title that I used there was The Thicker's Happy Life. That's the Paige Evans lettering. I wanted something really small that wasn't going to take away from anything. Now, what I'm doing here, I bought these ages ago and they were in the clearance bin on Uniquely Creative's website. And they're these little tiny, I don't even know what they call them, but they look like an enamel dot, but they're not shiny. They're dull. And I absolutely love them. I bought 2 packets of them because I thought, oh, I'm going to use them somewhere one day. And when I was looking in my enamel dot stash, as you can see them all off on the left-hand side there, I ran into these and I sort of put them down on the colours and they blended really, really nicely. And I thought, you know what? So here I'm taking off the darker one because I remembered I had 2 packets of them. And I took the darker red off and put, you can see where I'm putting it. You can barely see it. The only reason I'm putting these on here is to physically add some texture. It doesn't add, they're really, really shallow, these things. And they're like enamel dots. They are, I love them. They're so pretty. But like always, I like to use things, I like to be heavy-handed when I'm using something like that and there's no extra tiz on the page. It just, I think it works when you do it sort of in a mass. Can't even really say that because I don't do it very often. Now all I'm doing is I'm using the little pot beside me that's got the gold in it that I painted onto the leaves, and so I don't add another gold, I'm just running very, very finely around the very, very outside edge. You can see I'm painting more on my mat than I am on the cardstock. My voice is going. Geez, I'm glad I don't have too many voiceovers today. And I just run this gold strip around the outside just to give, you don't really notice it much in the video, but in the close-ups you'll see it. So if you want to see the close-ups, in the description I have a link to my Facebook group. That's where I post lots and lots of videos and That's where I post all my close-ups, and here's some close-ups. So see, you can see those little tiny enamel, they're not enamel dots, I can't remember what they're called. I'll look it up and put it in the description what they're actually called if they still have them. And you can see that they're in there, but they don't stand out. They really blend in quite nicely. I love it. And yeah, I love how the ink, see how the ink is pulled on top? It's exactly the same ink. It's just layering it up. It is so much fun. Give it a go. You might not want to do a whole page like I've done. Maybe do it in a strip. Maybe put some painter's tape and do like 2 stripes either side, or maybe do a square of it. You could use one color, you could use the range of colors. The options are endless. Give it a crack, guys, and jump over on my Facebook, say hi to me, and let's see if we can hit 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. Thanks, guys. Chat soon. Bye.